If you've been writing code for a while, or maybe you're just getting started, you might have heard of carpal tunnel, which is something that can happen to you where your fingers get really tight and painful, your hands hurt, and it can actually make it hard to use the computer again. So in this video, I want to share with you some tips that I've found really help keep my hands, wrists, and elbows in shape right after this. Hi, I'm Jamie Edwards, and at Healthy Software Developer, I want to help you have a sustainable career in software development where you don't get burned out, you don't get pushed around by people that don't really understand software development, and you can just make sure you have a great and long career. So I'm going to share with you three things today. The first is a set of stretches to keep your hands and wrists in shape when you're developing software or just using a keyboard for a long time, whether you're an ops or UX or a project manager. The second thing is I'm going to show you how to use what's called a Voodoo band to release any tension in your forearms. It's really common if you're a software developer or somebody who sits at the keyboard for a long time that you can get some pain and tension here. And the last thing is I'm going to give you some tips on some ergonomics things that you might consider about how you position yourself when you're using the keyboard. So to start, let's talk about the stretches. I play guitar also in my spare time. I have for over 20 years, and my hands get really tight from playing guitar. And being a software developer and consultant myself as well, I've spent hours and hours and hours on the keyboard of a computer. And if you play video games or you play other musical instruments, you might have gotten into a situation after doing it for a while that your hands start to hurt or just get tired, or maybe it just doesn't feel like you can type as fast as you used to. So these stretches I'm going to show you, I actually learned these years ago when I used to first start playing guitar and taking lessons, but there's actually a video I'm going to link to in the description. You can go back and watch at the end of this video where another guitarist who has a really cool channel, he's got a little bit more in-depth information on this set of exercises, but I'll just kind of show you what I think are the essentials that you need to know here today. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, and I'm only going to show you this on one hand just for the sake of time, is take your hand and reach out so that it's palm facing up, and you're just going to massage with your thumb your hand and your fingers. And really the reason you're doing this is just to bring blood into the area, to get it relaxed and kind of get it prepared for the stretches you're going to do. Now, it'd be great if you can do this every day. That's even better. But I wish I could say I did this every day. I do this, at least once a week, but I try to do it more often. As somebody who plays guitar, I was saying in the beginning of the video, this can make a big difference in your ability to stretch, to hit certain chords and things like that. But so you just want to go around and use the opposite thumb, and just you can use your fingers too, and just try to relax this area. Keep your hand relaxed. I'm using actually my fingers here in this spot of my thumb that's kind of hard to get with my thumb. But once you've kind of massaged the palms of your hands, you want to get this sort of meaty section that's underneath where your fingers meet your hand, and sort of loosen that up as well. And then the last thing you want to do once you've kind of done that is you want to actually massage up each one of your fingers here and kind of just loosen up all the way to the tips, each one of your fingers. Now, one thing you might notice, my hands are kind of red right now. I was using the keyboard before. If you're on a computer or you use a guitar for a long period of time, you're going to find that sometimes your hands will get red from just low circulation, and this is going to help that by doing this. So I'm doing this, kind of quicker for this video, but I'm just showing you what you really want to do. You can take as long or as short as you want. But once you've done that, just kind of shake your hand out and relax any tension. It's probably better to do it with your elbow down like this. I'm just showing you because, I got the webcam here. But once you've sort of loosened up your wrists and your hands, the next thing you're going to want to do is the set of stretches. So the first set of stretches, now the video from the guitarist that I linked to in the description, he has you lock your elbow, and you can certainly do that. How I like to do this is I just sit on my couch at home, and most couches have an armrest on each side. So if you're going to do like your right arm, kind of scooch up to the side of your couch, so you can relax your elbow, because the goal is you want to just take any tension out of your arm while you're doing this. So have your arm straight ahead as much as you can and relaxed. And then have your palm down in this case. And start with your index finger. And what you're going to do is you're going to let your hands kind of relax. You'll notice, if you don't have any tension in your hands, you're not grasping anything. Your fingers just kind of dangle down, and just leave them like that. And then take your first finger, your index finger, and very gently, I need to emphasize this, very gently, you're going to pull up on it until you start to feel a little bit of a stretch. Just go slow. Now, as soon as you start to feel that stretch, just hold it there. There can be a tendency, especially, let's say you drank a lot of coffee, like I talked about in my last video. If you're anxious or you're, in a hurry to just cram on these things, you don't want to do that. The goal of this is to keep your hand calm and relaxed. So as soon as you start to feel some tension there, just leave it there. And you can breathe in, take some deep breaths, and I won't sit here and bore you with breathing, but the more that you're breathing while you're doing this, it's just going to bring oxygen to your body. And the way your body works, whenever there's any kind of tension and you deep breathe, like if you do yoga or anything like that, your body knows to send the blood to the area that needs the oxygen. So just do this. You don't have to do it as long as I'm doing it. You can do it for just 5 to 10 seconds if you want. It really depends. But you're going to go through all these fingers. And one thing I kind of forgot here is the other thing you want to do, and this is great. I actually didn't know to do this part until I watched the video that I linked to below a few years ago when I first found it, is actually to wave your other fingers. This is really cool. You'll feel a deeper stretch when you do this. So you're going to go through and you're going to do each of those fingers, and I'll skip to the pinky. The pinky is a little bit different. The pinky, and this is the same thing that my guitar teacher showed me, which I didn't do as much as I should have when I was younger, but instead of pulling your pinky straight back like this, you're going to pull it kind of diagonally across your hand. Now, same thing. Just be really careful here. You might be really tight if you've never done this, but that's going to stretch this muscle along the outside of your hand. And same thing, wag the fingers. Wow, you can really feel that. That really helps loosen it up. And once you've gone through doing each of your fingers, last you're going to want to do your thumb. So your thumb, you want to actually pull, if you look at the back of my hand, you want to pull kind of against this. There we go. So it's kind of hard to see, but it's sort of at an angle. And you might notice the backs of my hands here are red like this. I don't totally know why my hands have always had bad circulation, or at least, since I can remember starting to code. I don't know if that's from not following one of the ergonomic tips I'm going to give you in a second here. But your thumb's going to be really tight. You might have to use, like I'm using here, multiple fingers. And again, go kind of slow on it, but you might have to pull pretty hard to give it a good stretch. And you can just wave your whole hand while you're doing this. Now, once you've gone through that, you're going to do a very similar thing, but starting with your hand, same position, and you're going to press down on each digit or each finger. So in this case, first, we do the index finger. I'm going to push down on it. You're going to feel the stretch in this case at the top of your hand. Now, because I've got my wrist bent like this, there's actually some extra tension across here where I'm not going to get as good of a stretch. So again, if you're sitting at the couch or you can lock your elbow, this is better because when you stretch, you're going to have less tension in your whole arm. But very similar, you do the kind of waving or wagging of the fingers. And you're just going to go through every one of your fingers. Same thing when you get to the pinky, you kind of pull inwards in this case a little bit to really get a good stretch. But once you've gone through all those and you've done your thumb as well. Now the thumb, one thing I want to say about it is if you're like me, I have an iPad and a iPhone. Some of the larger phones, you can fit it in your hand and you kind of can navigate and swipe around a lot with your thumb. You can get some kind of nasty pain going in your thumb there from just using the cell phone a lot. So really, it's better if you can hold your phone with the other hand and use your finger. It's just better ergonomically for you. But, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just kind of trying to tell you some things I've maybe done wrong. But So when you do your thumb and you stretch down like here, if you feel a little pain here, which is where I kind of feel it, that's usually from overuse of the iPad or, some kind of device with a touch screen when you're using your thumb. So same thing, you want to breathe, you want to let it relax, hold it as long as you feel comfortable. Don't go super hard. But when you're done, just shake your hands out. Now, one thing you'll see in the video from the Guitarist, and I don't do this all the time, but it does feel pretty good, is you can also kind of pull back your whole hand against the outside, and then you do the same thing. You kind of push down this direction with your whole hand, and that'll stretch the muscles that are on the top and bottom of your hand, and it kind of gets your wrist a little bit more. Like I said, I don't do this every time. This isn't how I was taught to do it. His is a little more exhaustive than mine, but that's something you can try. So just try that. Like I was kind of saying, it'd be great if you can do that every day, maybe before you code or afterwards as a recovery thing. That's great too. But if you can even just do it once a week or maybe like 2 or 3 times a week, I think you're going to find when you code or when you're using the keyboard and you're stretching to hit the control key and all kinds of different extra characters as a programmer, you're going to have an easier time doing it. Now, the last thing I'll show you that's part of this exercise, and this one I think you really do want to do, is to actually stretch the distance between your fingers. So starting with my index and middle finger, you kind of just take your hand and spread it apart like this. And you want to do it, not close to where your fingers meet your hand, but out at the end. It's going to give you more leverage. So same thing, go slow, breathe if you need to. I'd recommend breathing, and just hold it here for a little while. And you're going to go through each one of the fingers. And when you do your thumb, what I usually just do is just pull back on my thumb, but straight back. Like if your hand's like this, just pull straight down on it. And that'll give this inside here, this kind of like, frog foot web kind of section of everybody's hand, a nice stretch. So there you go. That's it for the stretches. So the next thing I wanted to show you, and this is kind of interesting, I didn't actually find these until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, is what's called a Voodoo band. It's this little basically strip of rubber. It comes kind of wound up like this. I've got my wife's hair thing. She gave me one of them to kind of hold on to. I don't know what happened to the original rubber band, but what this is for, and you can use this all over your body, but I found as a software developer, it's really good for your forearms, is this will bring blood to muscles and loosen them up when they're tight and overworked. You might already know that if you use a muscle too much or you overtrain it or overwork it, which we do with our forearms as software developers, you can get what are called trigger points, where basically a muscle in your body atrophies and it doesn't get enough oxygen anymore and it gets tight and it can't fully loosen up. So the first time I went to a massage therapist here in Austin, she was kind of going over my whole body. I ride bikes for exercise, and she was mostly just, checking out. I told her I ride bikes, where I'm tight. And she noticed right away, and I didn't know this was going to happen, that my forearms were super tight. And she was like, "Are you a software developer?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's so many software developers here in Austin." So she was like, "Yeah, we're going to have you work on that." So one thing I'll say too is I'll put a link in the description if you want to buy one of these. It's not an affiliate link. I don't get commission or anything like that. You can just buy it straight from them if you want it. You can get these multiple places. Rogue Fitness is where I got mine. I have 2 of these. But if you don't want to spend the money on one of these, what you can also do is, if you find an inner tube from a bicycle tire, they're made out of this exact same material. You can actually take a knife and slice one open, because you just want a long, flat strip of rubber of some sort that you can stretch to do this. So this is going to be a little funky on the video, because it's always hard to do this on yourself. If your wife or your partner or your friend can help you with this, it's always better. But so starting kind of at your bottom of your forearm, at the top of your wrist rather, you want to first just make an initial loop. And a lot of times I have to kind of use my chin or whatever, but that first loop's going to be really loose. You're just trying to keep it from slipping. And actually, wow, that's really loose. I don't want it quite that loose. So once you've got that initial loop to hold this on, then what's going to happen is you're going to start to be able to, and wow, this is really loose. Sorry about that. There we go. Once you've got some grip, you're going to want to apply. So don't just wrap it around, at the tension that it is so that it stays from slipping. You want to actually pull on it and put it around. And I'll tell you, if this is the first time you've done this, it's not going to feel good putting it on. Now, it feels amazing when it comes off. But so you go around and you just kind of apply some tension and you make loops that are overlapping as you apply this tension to your forearm. And you're going to go all the way up your forearm. You're really going to start feeling it, up there. This is the area that as a software developer or somebody who uses a keyboard, in the office for a long time, or if you're a video gamer, man, you're going to be sore here. So once you start getting towards the top, you really want to get, all the way to the top of your forearm like that, like just before your elbow. You can cross over and do your like tricep area as well, depending on what you're trying to do. But I'm just going to kind of come back and overlap over what was there. It's going to make it even tighter. And the thing you're going for is when you get to the end, like here, I'm kind of at the end, you're going to have this spare flap, and you want to sort of scooch it over and then just stick it if you can. Now this is tough because this is tight. Stick it underneath the previous loop so that it holds in place. I don't know, you probably can't see that real well in the video. But so once you've got your arm like this and it's going to feel tight, you're going to take your wrist and put it through a full range of motion. You want to lift it up and down. You want to turn it around. Ooh, I can really feel that. And what this is going to do is, because it's compressed like this, it's going to actually force the blood out of the compressed area into your hands and into your biceps. And it's going to basically flush everything out. Now, again, if you've got trigger points or tight muscles there from coding, there are muscles in there that aren't working really well. They can even be atrophied, meaning that, they don't work anymore. And doing this is great because you're breaking up those atrophied sections. You're breaking up any kind of tension. You're kind of giving yourself a massage too. You can open and close your hand if you want to. If you want to just kind of go up and down with your arm, whatever you got to do. But you only want to do this until your hand starts to feel numb a little bit, or your hand starts to turn white. That's telling you've got it on long enough and you need to take it off. So this doesn't take very long. I'm starting to feel some tingling already, so I'm going to take it off. Now, when you take it off, you just unwind it the same way you put it on, but you can unwind it real quick. And then you'll have to rewrap it, and that's kind of a pain in the butt, when you put it away. But if you look at my arm, I don't know if you can see it on the video. Yeah, it looks like I can here. I've got some lines, some strips on my arm. Those are going to go away in like a minute. So don't worry about that. There's nothing wrong with it. If you see some white or some red sections here, don't even worry about it. It's perfectly fine. But man, the difference in how my forearm feels, it feels amazing. I mean, compared to this one, like the only way I can think of describing is that it feels like you gave it a drink of water. It's like it's looser, it's relaxed, and I mean, oh man, just lifting, pulling my hands back or going like this. There's so much less tension in this one than this one. So you want to do both sides. But if you've never used a Voodoo band before, go pick one up. They're great. Or again, you can make one out of a bicycle tube. But in addition to the stretches I showed you, if you start to use a Voodoo band, what's also super cool about it is you can use it all over your body. I as someone who goes out and cycles a lot in Austin, it's pretty hilly here. I've killed my legs a few times and went and gotten massages and used, different tools and foam rollers and stuff. But the Voodoo band's awesome. You really do need to at least give it a shot. It's really a 2-for-1. It's a massage plus all the blood is flowing back into this area and it makes it healthier. So the last thing I'll talk to you about that I think will help you if you've never heard of this, and if you have, you can probably get at least something out of this, is just some things I've learned about good posture when it comes to using the keyboard. So I shared in one of my other videos that when I was like 20, 21 years old in my first software development gig, I was sitting at my computer, kind of low rider style, leaned way back. And there was a woman who was hired by the company I worked for who was an ergonomics specialist. And she kind of came by and gave me some tips and basically told me I was in for trouble if I didn't change my posture. But I use a standing station. That's actually what I use to do these videos. I don't use one of these real expensive ones you have to raise and lower. Those are great. If you can afford one, awesome. I just built my own. And I'm going to do a video on preparing your body for a standing station. I think a lot of people start using them, but then they give up because they don't really understand the physiology of your body, how to be more successful with it. But whether you're sitting or you're using a standing station, the key thing that you want to go for is a nice, neutral, relaxed position of your arms when you're using the keyboard. Now, if you're a consultant like I am, I've actually I have a second standing station, just one that I made from IKEA parts that I put in my car. I bring to companies when I'm a consultant. Sometimes people crack up at me, like the second day I'll be going up the elevator holding on to this little standing station. They're like, what the hell's that? But, nobody cares. It doesn't damage anything or anything like that. And, I care about my health. I want to take care of myself. So when I go on to a client engagement, even if everybody else is sitting, I don't care. I'm going to stand. So whether you're standing or you're sitting, what you're going for is you want to have your arms, the joint between your forearm and your bicep, the upper arm, you want it to be at a 90-degree angle, and you don't want them to be forward. If you're forward like this, it's going to create tension up here and back here and really make you sore. You want to let your elbows kind of come back a little bit like that. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this angle here is 90 degrees. If it's too low like this, you're going to get tension in your bicep and probably back here. And if it's too high, you're going to get more tension in your triceps, this muscle back here. So keep your arms at a 90-degree angle and again, relaxed. Now, you don't want to be, if you try to pull your shoulders back and you feel tension there, you've probably got tight pecs. And a lot of software developers do if they've been hunching over at the keyboard coding like this or like playing video games. You're going to probably need to do some massage work or go get a massage therapist to help you out. And I could do a video on that too, just to loosen up this area so that your shoulders can kind of rest at a neutral position again. But assuming that they can, and you can get that 90-degree angle, the next thing that you really want to do is, assuming that whether you're sitting at your desk or you're using a standing station, you can get that nice relaxed feeling here where you aren't tense and your arms are at a nice 90-degree angle. You want to get a keyboard that is going to support sort of a natural position for your hands. Now, when I first started programming, this was over 20 years ago, Microsoft had first come out with the first few ergonomic keyboards, and you've probably seen these. Instead of being flat, they're kind of scooped over the top, and that can be helpful. The main reason they design these is if you lift your hands up, you just don't think about it and lift your hands up. If you notice, my hands aren't like this. They're not perfectly straight, where my fingers are like this. They're kind of pointed in a little bit. So if you can find a keyboard that has the basically where you hold your home keys, if it has the keys split and rotated a little bit, that can be really good for you. But the thing you need to be careful for, and this is what I ran into when I first started using ergonomic keyboards, is a lot of them have a really fat padding by where your palm, the bottom of it, your wrists rest. And the thought is, if I'm going to be coding a really long time, I want to rest my wrists because they get tired. Well, a couple things. One is, if you feel your wrists need to rest, it's because you need a break. I mean, we're not designed to be sitting at a computer for 10 hours. So if you try to do things to get you to be able to do that for longer, just remember that's your body sending you a signal. Hello, get off the computer for a little bit. But, most of us can't choose it as software developers. I try to get up more often and things like that. But really, you want to actually have a position at the keyboard where your fingers, when you're at that 90-degree angle, they're not flat like this, and you're typing like this, and they're not on a wrist rest where you're typing like this, but they're just how they would fall normally. You lift up your hand and your fingers are going to dangle down a little bit. So if you're trying to kind of set like the perfect ergonomic position for your software development, you really want to have, shoulders back, arms relaxed, 90-degree angle, and then have the top of your keys be right where your fingers are when your hands are relaxed and kind of down like this. Then when you type, you're just going to kind of be going like this. You're not going to be going like this, which creates a lot of tension. You're not going to be going like that, okay? So that's really it. I just wanted to give you some quick tips on how to take care of your hands, how to use Voodoo bands to help with the forearm tension, and just some good posture for a keyboard. So have you found some things that work to keep your forearms, your wrists, your hands in shape as a software developer? Were these tips helpful to you today? Leave me some comments below. If you're new to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, click the bell icon, and you'll actually be notified every time I post new videos. You can also listen to this as a podcast if you'd rather do that. I'm on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and iTunes, and you can like me on Facebook. So until next time, thanks.